Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about gravity. I'll be going over these videos with you, and I will be leaving some comments as we go along. So let's get started with the first one.
We understand the world today in terms of four forces of nature: the strong and weak nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravity. Now, gravity is perhaps the most familiar, but in fact it's by far the weakest of the four forces. So weak, in fact, that we can completely ignore its effects when we explore the subatomic world.
Okay, so in the subatomic world, gravity, we can ignore it completely. And the reason why is because electromagnetism is a way heavier force than gravity. Gravity goes toward nothing. Electromagnetism is everything.
I was in physics class and the teacher was saying, bumblebees can't fly. It's impossible. Aerodynamically, they can't fly. And I was on the second floor of the classroom, and I looked out the window, and there was a big, beautiful bumblebee staring at me right in the eye. And he was doing something that this guy said he couldn't do. I've never forgotten that lesson. And so from then on, I understood that, well, he was right. They can't fly. They levitate. In natural law, there's only one law, and that's you either know or you don't know. There's no guesswork. It's like you know when you're hungry. You know when you want to sleep. These are knowing. These are all natural knowing. It has a great deal of difference from the synthetic or invented system of belief. You can believe this, but somebody can come along and get you to disbelieve, and vice versa. So you go around and around and around all your life sometimes, for some people, and never seem to get anywhere. Until you stand up and look into natural law, which is either you know or you don't know. And if you don't know, then you proceed along a line that's comfortable for you, and you proceed into the subject matter that you're studying, and you don't give up until you know what it is. There's no more guesswork. And you don't have to try to do this, because if you're following natural law, it will come to you. All you have to do is start it. The first step is just, I want to learn this, I want to know this. And just start it, and pretty soon, it will start teaching you. The bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing, it's resonant. What they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. The Earth is operating on a frequency of 8.5 hertz per second, or so forth. Once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. Well, that's not in any of the science books. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens. We have a conventional way of doing things, and then we have a natural way of doing things, and they're totally different.
bees are flying much faster than predicted, an incredible 30 miles an hour. Even with the really clever. In spite of 30-mile-an-hour crosswinds, whether out or back, they all fly.
It's a man named Grebennikov from Russia. Grebennikov was kind of a non-conventional scientist. He was an entomologist, did a lot of work with bugs, entomology. And his favorite thing was to go out into the steppes of Russia and into the various outer hinterlands and camp out in the summers and study his favorite subject. And on one of these expeditions, he started seeing some weird effects. This is all explained in great detail on the AchilleNet site if you type in Grebennikov and his flying box or gravity platform. But anyhow, the result of this was to show that he found a certain bug that didn't fly, it levitated. And this was, he'd put this bug into a little vial or something, and he saw this vial jumping up off the lab table, jumping up and down. And of course this is patently impossible based on any time of normal physics. So he got into this, and he found out that the bug wings themselves were creating an anti-gravity phenomena under certain conditions. And of course what we have here, if you analyze, I think I found the bug. It's actually a beetle. And if you analyze this bug structure, you see a hexagonal pyramid structure array throughout the entire bottom wing of this bug. Turns out that beetles have two wings. The top wing is called a wing cover, and what the beetle does is it lifts this wing cover up, and then it flips out its lower wings, or inner wings. Now the bug cover protects the inner wings, but when it gets excited or something, it flips these other wings out, and it flaps these other wings, and the inner wings flap a little, and this beetle goes gyrating around. They can't fly very good, but they sure levitate great, I guess. And anyway, he took a whole bunch of these bug wings, and he glued them to like a Venetia blind structure, and he put it into a little platform he built. So they were all, these bug wings were all covered in here. And he used I theorize he used the wing covers as well as the inner wing itself. There's also a kind of a handlebar on this thing with some controls. You can see the thing a little better here in detail. The controls, I think, had to be manipulated continuously and probably vibrated to create the same action that the bug was doing. There was also down at the base some kind of a lever, which I suspect controlled the amount of lift he was getting out of this thing. Anyway, Grebennikov claimed that he could fly this thing or levitate it, and it would go around at almost 1,000 miles an hour. Now you ask, how can that happen? Well, he said that there was an energy field that built up around this thing due to this gravity field building up in the platform, and by this thing building up, it built out a force field that basically surrounded him and protected him from the local environment. So even though he was flying at 1,000 miles an hour, you could go, you could be wearing your Sunday best suit and not get it flutter a bit at 1,000 miles an hour. I'm not sure I'd want to stand on something going 1,000 miles an hour that's 2 feet square. But this picture here shows him sitting on the ground, and these pictures are much better if you get on the AchilleNet site. This is the platform with him on it about 3 to 6 feet above the ground, because here's the shadow here down below. Now you could say this is all faked, but if you get into the other things he did with shape, they almost mirror the stuff that I discovered, and it proves, I guess, that there's either two crazy people in the world, or there's two people that have found the same discoveries. So I think that this is a valid phenomenon, and I'll show you why. Next slide is a micrograph that I took of a beetle inner wing. This is at 100x. If you look closely at this thing, you can see rows of bumps all along the bottom of this wing. Each row is staggered from the next row next to it. And this is all over the surface of the bottom of the wing. Now, I don't know of any aerodynamic surface that has bumps all over the bottom to help it fly better. If you blow this up to 430x, you can start to see some of this microstructure of the cells that form where these bumps are. The next slide, at 970x, you start to see what these bumps that stick up are. They're hairs, look like hairs or fibers that grow out of the center of these hexagonal cells. And of course, this harkens back to my basic shape power discovery, is that each one of these, because of their shape going down to a point, is creating a magnetic field. And remember, a magnetic field is a rotating piece of vortex in the ether.
Okay, now we're going to go through and talk about electromagnetic induction. This is a very important part of engineering that people really need to understand how it works and the mechanics that are involved in it. So if you have an electromagnetic current, it actually defies gravity, and I'm going to show you that right now.
Let's switch it on, let's see what it does. Through this coil of thick wire, we're about to pass a huge alternating electric current. On top is a 1 kilogram aluminium plate. So we hear this noise. What's that noise?
It's the vibration of the plate, because it's vibrating at 2 times the frequency of this one.
Whoa! Whoa! How does it do that? To find out, I've come to the place where it all started, the Royal Institution in London. This is the key to Faraday's magnetic lab. It's amazing that lock still works.
From the 1870s onwards, it became a storeroom, which is why it survived, and it survived intact, all the joinery, giant electromagnet, exactly the same as Faraday.
So this is exactly as Faraday would have had.
That's right, yep.
In Faraday's time, it was known that electric current creates a magnetic field, but it remained an open question whether the reverse is possible, if a magnetic field could generate electric current. Faraday answered this question with his most famous apparatus.
Faraday's electromagnetic induction ring, which is this.
In August 1831, Faraday wrapped 2 coils of insulated wire around this iron ring.
But in 1831, you could not go down to your local electrical hardware shop and ask for 800 meters of insulated wire. You had to insulate the wire as you went, and so as you pushed and pulled the wire out of the ring, you had to insulate it. It takes 10 working days, which is a huge investment of time.
But the investment paid off. When Faraday connected a battery to one of the coils, he saw a brief pulse of current in the other coil. And when he disconnected the battery, he saw a pulse of current in the other direction. He realized that current was induced in the second coil only when the magnetic field through it was changing. And if they hadn't been wrapped on the same ring, Faraday may have noticed that the 2 coils repel each other when the current is induced, and that's due to the interaction of their magnetic fields. Which brings us back to this. Through the bottom coil, we are passing a huge electric current, 800 amps, which alternates in direction 900 times per second. This ensures there will always be a changing magnetic field above the coil. Instead of a second coil, we're using the aluminium plate, but the principle is the same. The changing magnetic field induces currents in the plate that create an opposing magnetic field, so it levitates.
How awesome is that?
This current is not only good for levitating the plate, it can also make light bulbs glow.
A gift. Oh, thank you. Oh, that is cool.
Not too close because it's...
Okay, so now I need to clarify a couple things. A lot of people think that they ask, how can the sun and the moon go around the flat earth and the stars? Well, everything is ran by electromagnetics, okay? So they would levitate above the earth. They don't have to be circling around the sun at all You don't need the sun to be in the center of the universe. Okay, you can easily have everything you need right here on Earth, because Earth is an electromagnetic conductor. And people do not understand engineering. They don't know how electromagnetic conductors and induction works. This will light up your lamp without plugging it in. This will heat up everything. This is exactly like the sun. So all it is ran on electromagnetic conductors, the sun and the moon, and you'll see that later on as we go along.
We'll burn the arms. Can I put it there? Yep.
And just as current in a toaster element heats it up, the induced current in the plate dissipates its energy as heat.
Thank you.
Yeah, to see the conductor.
Check out how hot this plate is. Oh, that is nuts. Is this your favorite demo?
It's like a flying barbecue or something.
Tell me this is not the best dinner table centerpiece. It levitates, it gives you light, and you can cook on it. And all the while, you're demonstrating Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction.
So it levitates, it's very hot, and you can cook on it, and it gives you light. So it's basically the sun. Okay, you can put electromagnetics and it'll heat up and as a conductor. However, there are other kind of electromagnetics and magnetisms, and we'll soon go over that. So this would introduce the sun. Okay, the next one I'll be showing you will introduce the flat Earth and the moon, and how everything rotates onto the flat Earth.
Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. I'm down here at the marina contemplating gravity and the so-called opposing buoyant force of water which keeps these boats afloat. Now, we are told that gravity is because of the mass of the Earth. The entire Earth's mass is responsible for this constant rate of acceleration, we are told. However, take one of these boats and you can either put it in the ocean or you could put it in a tub with just enough water to keep it afloat, and that boat will not rise or sink any differently in a small mass of water compared to the vast massiveness of the ocean. So, therefore, how can you have an opposing force which is equal to the so-called force of gravity based on the mass of the Earth if the entire mass of the water in which the boat is sitting in varies? Surely, if this equation is true, then the buoyant force of the water should also depend on the entire mass of the water that the boat is sitting in. Chew on that one for a while, globeheads.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it on your favorite social media sites. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned and we'll see you back next time.